Hey everyone, welcome into our latest Trade to Black podcast. What a week it's been so far. I'm your host, Shad Dales. So let's get into it, because today we're looking at a key question. Who really decides if cannabis gets rescheduled? There's been a lot of attention on Terrance Cole, Trump's appointee for DEA Administrator, but many believe, regardless of Cole's personal views, this decision ultimately sits with President Donald Trump. With that, let's break it down and give you examples as to why. Let's first begin with Terrance Cole, who's set to lead the DEA, and technically the DEA is the agency that finalizes rescheduling decisions. Cole has said he'll review the science and follow the legal process, but he hasn't made any commitments either way. Some see that as caution, while others argue it reflects how this process works. DEA leadership generally follows the policy direction set by the Department of Justice and ultimately the White House. So even if Cole personally supported or opposed rescheduling, his authority in some ways is limited. His role is to implement decisions within the framework given to him, and that framework comes from the administration. And with that, here's why so many point to Trump as the ultimate decision maker. The DOJ oversees the DEA, and the Attorney General, who heads the DOJ, reports directly to the president. That means major policy moves, especially ones as politically sensitive as cannabis rescheduling, are rarely decided without the president's input. We've seen this before. Under President Obama, DOJ issued the Cole memo that eased enforcement on state legal cannabis. Under President Trump's first term, that memo was rescinded by then Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Those moves reflected the sitting president's policy direction. So while the DEA handles the technical process, the policy decision flows from the top. So what could we expect from President Trump? His recent record gives some clues as to how this could play out. Earlier this month, he signed the Halt Fentanyl Act, which cracked down on synthetic opioids. While unrelated to cannabis, it shows he's willing to take clear positions on drug policy when he thinks action is needed, and that was needed. On cannabis specifically, Trump said he supports medical use and believes states should have the right to decide on legalization. During his campaign, he also spoke favorably about moving cannabis to Schedule III, which is consistent with recommendation the Biden administration left behind, as we all know. But that doesn't guarantee action, and it explains why many think the decision won't depend on Cole's personal stance. Because if Trump wants it to happen, the process will move forward. And if he doesn't, it won't. Here's something else to consider. Another factor is how Trump builds his administration. Historically, he's chosen cabinet members and agency heads who share his policy views or are willing to carry them out. And if they don't, they're often replaced quickly. Look at his current Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who has been outspoken about enforcing federal drug laws, but has also supported tightening oversight of state-licensed cannabis operators. Her views align closely with Trump's broader approach to law enforcement. And with that, Cole's nomination follows that same pattern. Presidents typically don't appoint people to key positions who might publicly push against their policy priorities. That's why many view Cole as more of an executor of policy than an independent decision maker. Let's move now to Congress, and they do play a role mainly through funding. The House advanced amendments to block the DOJ from spending money on rescheduling cannabis, while the Senate has pushed back against those efforts. But even those appropriations bills needs the president's signature to become law. So those really aren't going anywhere. If Trump supports rescheduling, he has tools to prevent funding restrictions from being enacted. And if he doesn't, he can use the same tools to slow or stop the process. Again, this is why there's so much focus on Trump, because Congress can influence the debate, but the administration enforces the final decision. Now let's look at legal and international factors, because some people ask whether international law or court challenges could influence Trump's decision. International treaties do limit how far the U.S. can go. Completely removing cannabis from federal scheduling would conflict with agreements the U.S. has signed. But rescheduling to Schedule III is allowed under those treaties, which is why it's seen as the most realistic option right now. As for lawsuits, advocacy groups on both sides are expected to challenge whatever decision the DEA makes. But those legal fights only start after the ruling is finalized, which means the administration has to act before any court steps in. So when you put this all together, the reasoning becomes clear. The DEA operates under the DOJ, which follows White House policy. Cabinet members are typically aligned with the president's views, and Congress can slow things down but can't enforce policy without the president's approval. And really, legally, Schedule 3 is within the president's discretion. That's why many in the industry believe this decision at its core depends on President Trump, not Terrance Cole. So what does this all mean going forward? The key signals to watch won't come from trolls' comments at the DEA. They'll come from the White House. Statements from Trump, policy directives from the DOJ, and how appropriations bills are handled will tell us whether rescheduling is moving forward or stalling. For now, Cole's confirmation matters because it fills a leadership gap, but it doesn't change the underlying fact that the DEA follows the policy direction it's given, and that is from the DOJ, aka President Donald Trump. So really, to sum this up, Terrance Cole may oversee the process, but the ultimate call again for rescheduling comes from President Donald Trump. So whether the industry moves ahead or continues to wait, most believe that the decision starts and ends with the White House. What do you think? What is going to happen? And will it ultimately come down to President Donald Trump making this decision? Do you think he will? Leave some comments below. We'd love to keep this conversation going, and we'd love to get your feedback. As usual, if you like this content we produce, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash on that bell for all notifications. Until next time, I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks for checking into our latest Trade to Black podcast. Take care, everyone.